Hi, it's Jess. Sometimes we'll bring you episodes made by our colleagues at SYLVAIN, in addition to your regularly scheduled nonsense. This is one of those episodes, an extra special listening edition of SYLVAIN's Progress Report newsletter. I'll let the author take it away.
The State of Wellbeing. Are we unwell? When I have a bad day, it feels like the end of the world. Then the quest for a quick fix begins. A new lip gloss, Swedish candy, maybe a Pilates class, shot of olive oil, and red light therapy, AG1 greens, a sunny angel, more Swedish candy, canceled plans, a lobotomy. Endless choices for a euphoric 5 minutes. But then the high wears off, and I feel unwell. Why? My hypothesis is that we've long been conflating wellness with well-being, and it's finally catching up to us. While definitions are elusive and debated, for the sake of this discussion, let's define the two terms as follows. Wellness is the improvement of the self as defined by the self, and well-being is how we feel and function personally and socially, and how we evaluate our lives as a whole. The roots. Our founder, SYLVAIN, clocked the beginnings of this conflation back in 2017 in a talk he gave on the future of well-being. At the time, the cultural obsession with productivity and hustle culture was waning. Overworked, stressed out Americans were finding respite in mindfulness coloring books, juice cleanses, meditation apps, and Goop's infamous yoni eggs, marking an era of unapologetic, indulgent self-care that SYLVAIN coined as Wellbeing 1.0, ranging from 2014 to 2016. But what started as a simple desire to feel better quickly morphed into an unrelenting pursuit of perfection, as brands began to sell well-being as an exclusive aspirational lifestyle. Then, everything changed. Trump secured his first win, Eric Garner and Michael Brown were brutally murdered by police, dreamers faced the threat of deportation with the announcement of DACA's termination, and 17 lives were lost in the Parkland High School shooting. In the face of ongoing crises, people turned to each other, joining together to challenge broken systems and create collective impact. For SYLVAIN, this signaled that a shift was approaching. If Wellbeing 1.0 was about looking inward to the self, the evolved Wellbeing 2.0 was about looking outward to the world and the communities around us. And in Wellbeing 2.0, the role of brands wasn't to perpetuate an unattainable ideal. It was to meet consumers where they were at, acting as active tools for social change. The trees. SYLVAIN's predictions weren't necessarily wrong, but given how things have snowballed in the last 4 years, Wellbeing 2.0 now feels almost Pollyannish. The pandemic hit, Roe v. Wade was overturned, US inflation hit a 40-year high, school shootings only increased, natural disasters surged, the list goes on. And something happened that SYLVAIN may not have predicted when he imagined increasingly progressive eras of well-being. We'd evolved. From the goopies of 2014 to the wellness girlies of today, we're back in a similar self-care game, but now on a $6.3 trillion playing field, fueled by a massive influencer economy and new social players, namely TikTok. The sheer size of the industry makes wellness feel inescapable, and brands are complicit in fueling a never-ending chase for more and better. Today, brands are selling wellness as a shortcut to well-being. It's not just about an aspirational lifestyle anymore. It's about projecting a false sense of control, the promise of certainty and agency amidst the unpredictability of everyday life. When you can't find time for a doctor's appointment, try a bevy of supplements. When racing thoughts about work are keeping you up at night, try an Oura ring. When the world is crumbling around you and everything feels out of reach, try wellness. As Sophie Gilbert outlines in The Atlantic, possibly this is why the gambit of wellness is so seductive. It's a familiar bargain with a familiarly vague payout. Do more so you can get by. Pay money for the promise of relief, if not release. We're so inured to the idea that we can win by just working a little harder when what we really need are radical structural overhauls. The truth is that there is no such thing as a shortcut to well-being. It's not a destination or an achievement. It's not something you can swipe your credit card for or have delivered to your doorstep in 2 days. It's an ongoing practice related to how you feel, function, and connect with yourself and the world around you. Self-care is a valid part of this practice, but it's only one small part. And by narrowing in only on ourselves, we lose sight of essential pieces of well-being like social connection and emotional intelligence. We miss the forest for the trees. As we've gotten used to a faster, quicker mindset, playing the long game often feels like a foreign concept. Socializing can feel like a chore, minor inconveniences insurmountable, and our tolerance for discomfort paper thin. Flaking on plans, bed rotting, and setting boundaries may feel liberating in the moment, especially when we're all feeling burnt out and overworked. But in the longer term, research shows that an over-reliance on an inward focus, triggered by frequent change or indescribable feelings of impending doom, can have lasting effects. According to anthropologist Sarah Ann Robinson, anomia exhibits self-centeredness, reduction in altruism and compassion, distrust of others, apathy or hyperactivity or a vacillation between both, and can develop alienation and anger. If our efforts are backfiring, if we're feeling unwell, the next natural question is, how do we get back to a more holistic definition of well-being? And importantly, how can brands reorient to help us change course? The forest. Consumers are tired of investing in wellness and not feeling well at all. Tired of brands overpromising individualistic solutions to systemic problems. And early signs are showing a return to, wait for it, community. Young people joining game clubs to combat their loneliness, students occupying Columbia's South Lawn for 14 days in solidarity with Gaza, and mutual aid organizations nationwide rallying to support victims of the LA fires. As consumers confront harsh truths about an uncertain future, maybe it's time for brands to take accountability and do the same by getting honest with us and with themselves. Brands have demonstrated their might in the space of wellness. Imagine if that money and energy was diverted into something more collective, more energetic. So what does it look like for brands to get honest about the role they play in facilitating our collective well-being instead of just our personal perception of wellness? Number 1, know your limits. In a world where kids are having birthday parties at Sephora, Kiehl's is explicitly saying no to selling skincare to children. Kiehl's Kids Should Stay Kids campaign confronts cultural discourse about the increase in young kids adopting adult skincare routines, clarifying who their products are actually meant for and what a fulfilling childhood really looks like. This statement goes beyond just this campaign, with parent company L'Oreal pledging to not market products to kids under 16 or partner with influencers who are under legal age. Number 2, amplify what's authentic. Outdoor equipment brand Arc'teryx partnered with Bouldering Project in Brooklyn to provide free Climb Fridays and other events for climbers of all levels. Arc'teryx was honest with themselves about the role they play in consumers' lives, knowing it wasn't as authentic or impactful for them to build a community from scratch. Instead, they tapped into the power of an existing one, amplifying climbing culture and decentering themselves. Number 3, serve the need, not the noise. digital media company The Skim republished the contents of reproductiverights.gov, a resource created after the overturning of Roe v. Wade, when the site went down on the second day of President Trump's second term. Rather than exacerbating fear with clickbait, The Skim stayed dedicated to their responsibility as a trusted news source for women, providing access to crucial information about their rights through rapid change and uncertainty. It's clear that when brands are more honest about the role they play in our lives, they can both further our well-being and expand our definition of what it means to be well. So I encourage those of you who work with brands to ask yourselves, are your efforts actually making your customers well? And if not, try looking outside of yourself to culture, to communities, and rethink how you can adjust to drive collective well-being.
Progress Report is a SYLVAIN production. We'd like to thank today's reader and author of The State of Wellbeing, Claire Choi. Special thanks to Alex Contel, Les Jacobs, Natalie Berry, and Jillian Rosen. For more from SYLVAIN's Progress Report, or to sign up for the Progress Report newsletter, go to progressbysylvain.co. Now, back to the nonsense.